I'm the author Michael J. Egbert, and this is my fourth video for my book, Finding Christmas. And thank you for sticking with me for this far. This is actually the very first video that I will be conducting for my book reading. Now we're going to start it off with chapter 1, which is The Office Christmas Party. Now this is my very first book reading that I've ever done, whether it is telecommunication or in person. So if I don't do great voices or if you find my voice annoying, I apologize. Please just listen to the words, because trust me, the book's going to sound better in your head than it does from my mouth. All right? So chapter 1, The Office Christmas Party. And I promise that I'm only going to do this video halfway through the chapter. The next video will do the conclusion of the chapter, and then we'll do one more book reading afterwards. Hi, sorry about this, but the material that we created was not quite working in the video, so we decided to make things a lot more simple. So I am going to be doing this book reading in my garage. This actually happens to be my workspace, and writing in the Las Vegas desert, 110 degrees in this garage, is absolutely great for my complexion. So I hope you enjoy. I hope it still has the same impact that it would have with the other material, but this is basically the best I can do. So to get on with it, chapter 1, The Office Christmas Party. It was 6 months ago when I lost my dad. His death didn't come as a surprise. I figured he was eventually going to pass away. After all, he was getting on in years. Though there's something odd when you realize you're alone. Until recently, I've always had one of my parents around to help me. It wasn't until 5 years ago when my mother passed away that I started contemplating death. It's when she died that my dad came to live with me and my family. At first it was difficult, but over time my family grew accustomed to having him around. It was hard watching him die, but I think it was harder for my two kids, especially my son Garrett. It's unrealistic for anyone to expect a 9-year-old to fully comprehend the permanence of death. Sometimes I worry about him. Garrett and my dad shared a special bond. If I ever worked late, my dad was there to help him, the same way he helped me. Even though initially she was affected by it, my daughter Lizzie seems more adjusted to the change. When she went back to school, everything seemed to get better for her once she was around her friends. However, this school year is different. She's at an age where she's starting to notice boys. I miss the days when she came to me to help her with the scraped knee. Now when she talks to me, I feel lost. Every day she comes home and it's Jody said this or Adam saw that. Stuff that requires a seasoned hand. I'm ashamed to admit this, but I'm no longer good at helping her. Instead of trying, I deferred Lizzie over to Sarah. It could be a mother-daughter thing or even a woman thing. But most of what she says passes over me. I have a law degree and I've stood in front of multiple judges and committees, but I've never felt more unqualified than I do when I try to help my daughter. That's when having my dad around was useful. As a whole, our family seems okay with losing my dad. That is, everyone except me. In a way, I feel broken. For the first time in my life, I have no one to turn to. I'm alone. There's no one to ask for help. For 6 months, I've been trying to figure things out on my own. Well, not entirely. I do have Sarah. Still, I'm worried about everyone's looking to me for answers. What if I don't have them? Of course, Sarah helps, but we're trying to figure things out together. Anyone with kids knows that raising them at 5 is different than at 10. With each year, new challenges are guaranteed to follow. Lizzie, my oldest, turned 11 a couple months ago. With my parents around, I had someone to lean on. Now I'm dealing with dating and puberty, and it's a whole new ballgame. What makes matters worse is that Christmas is almost here. One of the unspoken truths about losing a loved one is for the first year after their death, every day becomes your first day without them. Every trip you take or movie you see is the first time you did it without them. It's a harsh reality noticing when someone's gone. I first noticed it at Halloween. Over the years, I got used to my dad sitting on the front porch, handing out candy. He was always there in his worn-down Davy Crockett costume. That costume was covered with patches on its pants and shirt. The coonskin hat had lost most of its fur. No matter what we did, there was no way of getting him to wear something else. I really missed that. Coming home to an empty house on Halloween hit me hard. I think I spent the rest of the night staring at his old room. I kept imagining he was still there. It's the same for Christmas. This will be my first Christmas without either of my parents. I go around and seeing everyone happy and merry, whereas I can't seem to get out of this funk I'm in. In fairness, it's not entirely my dad's fault. I've always struggled with Christmas. There's something about it that seems disingenuous, and I know it's blasphemous to speak ill of Christmas, but I've never felt quite at home with the Christmas season. I admit that it's possible that my problem is not even Christmas, but with something else. Still, it's been a rough couple of weeks. However, I do get annoyed with everyone's cheerfulness.
Every year, it's the same stories, trips, and traditions replayed over and over. At least with work, I'm giving 2 weeks off for the holiday, but I always come back more worn out than before I left. I'm sure I wasn't always so gloomy with past Christmases, but I can't remember a time when I wasn't phoning it in. Honestly, I don't remember the last time I was excited for the holiday. Over the years, Sarah's done what she could to create new traditions for us, things that might bring out the joy in Christmas. Unfortunately, each new tradition never quite worked for me. In the past, we worked at a local soup kitchen and tried singing carols, but somehow I've noticed that when we do these things, I seem to be around, but never really there. Strangely enough, I noticed something else over the past couple weeks. I've somehow started to pick up on the sadness of other people. In a weird way, I can tell who's been depressed or sad. Even the people like me who are trying to fake it, I've been able to see through it and see what they're hiding. The other day at the store, I kept noticing people. I could see who was in pain and who was sad. It's likely I'm picking up on things because of my own misery. Even though I tried faking my Christmas cheer in the past, it seems there's no way of faking it this year. With only a week away till Christmas, I feel caught in the downpour of Christmas spirit, and I'm only hoping not to drown in it. Since Christmas is coming, I've been preparing myself for every encounter with someone who is about to wish me a Merry Christmas. Fortunately, I've done a good enough job handling each wish. What's ironic is that while I spent too much time preparing myself for everyone's wishes, I started to think about other cultures and how they celebrate the holiday. It started off as a thought of telling everyone that I started celebrating a different holiday. But somehow, somewhere along the line, I couldn't stop wondering if anyone else struggles with their holiday traditions the way I struggle with mine. Surprisingly, the thought of store shelves kept creeping into my mind. I kept thinking about other countries and what their stores might look like, whether any of them had Christmas displays in them. If they did, how long have they been there? It was 2 weeks before Halloween when I first saw Christmas decorations finding their way to the store shelves. The more I thought about it, the more I wondered if other countries do the same thing for Christmas, or if it's only an American thing to put up a tree, decorate a house, and sing carols to random strangers. What's funny is, in all the time spent reflecting on other people's Christmases, I realized the curious thing. I determined the best way to understand someone's culture is by looking at their store shelves. I believe it's one of the easiest ways to learn about someone. All you have to do is watch what they buy, better yet, what they bring home. I figured out that I can learn more about people if I watch where they put their money. Nobody would buy something unless they needed it or really wanted it. I guess it might be the best way to find out what matters most. By watching the store aisles, I can learn what matters to that city. I would know if people were buying food fresh or processed. I could see if meals were sold frozen or if someone takes the time to make them from scratch. In my city, what we love are holidays. From September to March, our stores are littered with seasonal decorations. It doesn't matter if it's Halloween or Valentine's Day. There's always something kept on the shelves until Easter. Despite any hesitations, I still plan on celebrating Christmas. It's probably better to fight through it than to fight it. It's probably better to fight through it than to try to fight it. It's like swimming upriver. At some point, a person has to realize it's better to let the current take you away than to try to beat it. Maybe things would be different if I lived in a place like Florida or Arizona. Honestly, I don't even know how someone in Arizona would celebrate Christmas. Instead of a pine tree, do they decorate a cactus? Since I don't travel much, I have to rely on the news and what they share with me. Unfortunately, our local news doesn't find it interesting enough to show an Arizona Christmas. Traveling would be nice. I've rarely had the chance to get out and see the world. I guess life finds a way to keep people grounded. After law school, all my thoughts were focused on trying to make a partner at my firm. Along the way, Sarah and I started trying for kids. At first, there were some difficulties, but eventually we had Lizzie. Then, the past 5 years, we took care of my dad. Over time, traveling seemed less important. Still, I wish I understood people better. There's not many ways to fix it, but the few people I've talked to tell me to travel. Get out and see the world. Unfortunately, I developed a necessary evil of ambition. My life was singularly focused on very specific goals. Nothing was getting in my way, not until I achieved those goals. Despite minor regrets on not seeing the world, I can honestly say that I'm not disappointed with my life. I'm proud to say that I made partner at Peterson Associates. Our office overlooks the Grand River in downtown Grand Rapids, and we are the largest firm in Western Michigan. To make it to where I am, I had to take on extra assignments and work longer hours. Everything was built towards a partnership at the firm. Of course, I'm proud of my kids and my marriage with Sarah, but my partnership is the only thing I had control over. It's the one thing I could work towards. Even with Sarah, There's only so far hard work could take me. A big part of our marriage is based around luck and whether or not she's into me. If she wasn't, there's nothing I could do to fix it. Thankfully, I did marry Sarah, and my partnership did come in time. Surprisingly, before I was promoted, I was told to scale back on the extra work. It was Mr. Peterson who suggested I should spend more time at home. Per his request, I dialed back on extra assignments and started spending more time with my family. There was something he kept repeating about not missing it. That stuck with me. I think he was referring to my kids, and I'm glad he did. In the time I've been home, I realized how much Sarah does for our family. Not only is she taking on the role of caregiver, but she's also found a way to enjoy a successful career as a consultant. I think having me home helped her get more out of her business. If she was behind on a project, I was there to help her out. Despite being financially successful, I still feel empty. I think a part of it comes from the way we spend our money. When looking into our finances, it didn't take long to see where all of our income went. Everything was put into buying the right house and making sure that our kids went to the right school. Along the way, we would splurge on our kids and a little on ourselves. I'm sure a part of me didn't want my kids thinking I didn't love them. I remember one time my friend got a video game system and I didn't. At the time, I believed I didn't get it because my parents didn't love me. I'm embarrassed to admit how long it took for me to realize how wrong I was. I think there's a part of my subconscious which remembers that moment. Since having kids, I've been determined to make sure that they've never felt neglected or unloved. Of course, there's a pretty thin line between giving and spoiling someone. I want to believe we do a decent job at it. However, if they were raised on any other street in any other neighborhood, I'm certain they would have turned out rotten. It's funny how a video game system can bring up old feelings. I think the one thing I keep having is regret. I regret not letting my dad know how much he meant to me. I regret not being a better dad or husband for my family. Somehow, Christmas made me aware of these regrets. I've gone from indifference towards Christmas to disdain, and I can't explain it. I know nothing's changed about Christmas, but at some point the entire celebration became exhausting. Unfortunately, my Christmas fatigue has started showing, and I think Sarah's noticed it. This morning, she skirted around a couple of subjects. She seemed hesitant on mentioning the office Christmas party. It's probably because I've complained about it in the past. Although my complaint isn't about the party, it's over having a Christmas break. Despite getting 2 weeks off, I always come back to the office feeling drained and exhausted. I thought about calling in sick, but since I'm one of the partners, I need to be there. For no other reason than trying to keep up office morale. I do love where I work, but the party is a bit much to deal with right now. Our firm's office is on the 11th floor in one of the office buildings in downtown Grand Rapids. I'm one of the lucky ones to have an office overlooking the Grand River. It's the perfect view. Whenever I worked late, I would stop and watch the sunset. In rare moments, when the sky was clear, I could see Lake Michigan on the horizon. Every time I watched the sunset, I'd smile, thinking that 30 miles ahead of me was someone sharing that same view. Though I don't get many sunsets this time of year, winter is usually bleak in Grand Rapids. The city is always cloudy and constantly dealing with snow. Out my window, I could see each storm forming over the lake. Every storm gives our city a chance to collect another foot of snow, and it's never the light, fluffy kind. It's always the wet, heavy sort that snaps tree limbs. While sitting at my desk, I can see the next set of clouds forming over the lake. It's just another reason I didn't want to work today. I can hear the party starting. Everyone is shutting down their computers. When it comes to the annual Christmas party, Mr. Peterson spares no expense putting it together. Since he's our boss, I think he worries about being labeled a Scrooge, so he tends to go big on celebrating the holiday. The party is usually a memorable one, especially for Mr. Peterson. He's the type of person I would hate to disappoint. Even though he's in his 60s, you can never tell. His face always carries a smile. Though he's never said it, I think he believes he needs to show everyone how happy he is. It's like, if he doesn't enjoy coming to work, how could he expect anyone else to enjoy it? Of course, he's outside my office, walking around, wishing everyone a Merry Christmas. I've always admired how easily he gives of his time. He does what he can to make sure everyone feels appreciated. His walks through the office are often spent trying to get to know someone. That way, they could also get a chance to know him. Marcus, one of our paralegals, just ruffled Mr. Peterson's silvery hair. Of course, Mr. Peterson gives him a laugh and retaliates by trying some old Three Stooges gag. It's this time of year when Mr. Peterson seems happiest. It's like Christmas somehow brought out his inner child. I don't know if it's the get from the gifts, lights, or family traditions, but his attitude goes from happy to jovial. I know he's fairly religious. I think if given his way, Mr. Peterson would have us reenact the nativity scene from Christ's birth. Though he's far too experienced in labor law to try and bring religious practices into the workplace. So he does the next best thing and tries to show Christian kindness as Jesus would want him to do. In some ways, I revere Mr. Peterson. In all the years I've known him, I came to the simple conclusion that he's one of the few people who practices their faith. I don't think I've ever witnessed him mess up or treat someone unfair, whereas I find myself practicing my faith whenever it's most convenient. I only attend church services on special occasions like Christmas or Easter. I think I'm a Christian, but I never found Jesus the way other people have. Unlike Mr. Peterson, I'm full of hypocrisy. Stepping outside my office, I can see how happy everyone is. Me, I'm finding myself giving half smiles to everyone who passes by. I keep glancing at the clock, trying to count down the minutes until the party's over. Even when the party's over, I have errands to run. Things Sarah needs to get ready for Christmas. Once I walk out of the office, it's nothing but holiday songs and eggnog till December 26th. While I was surveying the room, I nearly jumped out of my skin when Carol startled me. I was so busy looking over things that I never saw her step in front of me. Carol is one of the junior associates at the firm. She's rather short and tends to have a very outgoing personality. You could call her a people pleaser. She blurted out, "Hi, Steve. Are you excited for Christmas?" "I am. I'm barely holding myself together." I smiled and said, "Hi, Carol. Yeah, this is great. How are you enjoying yourself?" She seemed thrilled and responded, "I'm great. I just love this time of year. How about you? How are you doing?" "I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking." I waited before asking, "Is that a new sweater?" "No," she laughed. I wore this one a couple days ago. Don't you remember?" Honestly, how could I? Carol has a tendency to wear the most awful Christmas sweaters. She has so many that she could start a collection. In the past, I've wondered how anyone could think it was a good idea to create something like her sweaters. I guess if someone's willing to wear them, then who am I to complain about someone making them? Thankfully, she only wears them the week before we break. I answered, "Of course, how silly of me. I should have recognized that one. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of the party." I decided it was better to end the conversation before I said something I might regret. I walked around her and made my way back to my office. I decided it was better to bury myself in some paperwork than accidentally offend someone. So we're going to stop right there. My next video will conclude the chapter and we'll do one more. Thank you again for sitting through this, and look forward to the next video. And once again, I apologize for changing the scenery, but this is my office, so you're welcome to join in, I guess.